Treachery is the non-fiction story of aircraft sabotage, an aborted mission to use a nuclear backpack, nuclear bomb, in the Middle East, guns for cocaine trafficking, and murders connected to the Iran/Contra affair. The national security blanket protects those involved in these felonies from prosecution, keeping the public in the dark and leaving the reputations of senior political and military leadership untarnished. In late 1985, an aborted covert mission to deploy a nuclear backpack, a nuclear bomb, by a green light team in the Middle East resulted in the death of several Americans. Their bodies were loaded on a DC-8 aircraft in Cairo, together with the nuclear backpack. Angry survivors of the mission were a threat to blow the whistle. The aircraft included 101st Airborne Troops, returning home from a peacekeeping mission in the Sinai. Their destination was Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The DC-8 stopped at Gander, Newfoundland, for refueling. A rogue CIA team planted incendiary devices on the DC-8, remotely detonating them on takeoff. This was Canada's and America's worst military air disaster with 256 dead. Aero Air 1285, the military-chartered DC-8, caught fire and exploded 1 minute after takeoff from Gander. There were no survivors. The Canadian and U.S. governments denied terrorist involvement while the aircraft still burned on the ground. There was no sabotage investigation. No reconstruction of aircraft debris. The Canadian Air Safety Board, CASB, in a 5-4 split decision claimed icing caused the crash. The 4 minority members included pilots and aeronautical engineers reported that the crash was caused by a fire and explosion on the airborne aircraft. Lethal levels of carbon monoxide in dozens of bodies support fire on the airborne aircraft. The U.S. government records on this horrific crash are sealed for 70 years. Efforts by the families to have the records unsealed failed. Charles Byers, a U.S. arms manufacturer, confirmed the sales of incendiary devices sold exclusively to the CIA to R. Lee McCree, the head of the LAPD bomb squad in January 1986. McCree reported this finding to the federal government. McCree was killed with his partner in a booby-trapped pipe bombs the following month. The pipe bombs were found in a garage owned by Donald Lee Morse, a Hollywood makeup artist. Morse denied any knowledge of the pipe bombs. Morse was convicted of murder and died in prison in May 2009. In February 2017, Robert Michael, retired LAPD detective captain, confirmed the deaths of the LAPD officers are linked to the Gander crash of Aero Air 1285. Gene Wheaton, a retired Army criminal investigator, reported an intelligence-related assassination cell concealed within the Pentagon/DoD which murders officers who threaten to expose illegal covert operations. Wheaton reported an illegal aircraft swap scandal to the U.S. Attorney for Arizona who told him that she had no plans to meet with him. The aircraft were used for smuggling and narco-trafficking. Marine Corps Air Station El Toro, California, was one of several military bases used to support CIA drug flights. In January 1991, Marine Colonel James E. Sabo, relieved of his duties on a false charge of misuse of government aircraft, learned that aircraft returning from Central America into El Toro carried cocaine. He threatened to blow the whistle. He was murdered on his quarters patio with his own 12-gauge shotgun. There were no fingerprints on the shotgun. The forensic evidence supports homicide and crime scene tampering. This evidence was summarized in several papers published in the UK Journal of Forensic Research in 2017. A blow-up of an autopsy photo led to the discovery of a Defense Department fraudulent autopsy photo. The fraudulent photo was intended to mask the telltale tramline bruise to the right side of the colonel's head, which would automatically rule out suicide. He had a 1-inch depressed skull fracture, supporting a violent hit to the head. His shotgun was forced into the mouth and fired while the colonel lay dying on the patio. The crime scene was staged by Naval Investigative Service agents to support suicide. In 2012, Randy Robinson, former El Toro MP, reported that one NIS special agent placed the patio chair on top of Colonel Sabo's body. The patio chair on the body was used to support the government's suicide manner of death. Robinson reported that 3 unknown men entered the crime scene and forced most of the NIS crime scene agents and MPs to clear the crime scene. These men were part of a government hit team. Efforts by Dr. David Sabo, court-recognized forensic neurologist and the colonel's younger brother, to present evidence to have the manner of death changed from suicide to homicide failed when the NCIS withdrew from a cold case review in 2010, and the Orange County Sheriff Coroner, who signed the death certificate, refused to meet with him and several independent medical experts. Arrow Air 1285 and the murder of Colonel Sabo are linked to Iran/Contra. The aborted Green Light mission was a favor to the Israelis for their support in facilitating the shipments of weapons to the Iranians. The proceeds of the weapon sales and the sales of cocaine in the US were used to support the Contras. Treachery can be purchased as a soft cover copy or ebook from Amazon.